ladies and gentlemen, please stand and remove cover while we sing our nation's national anthem. Great job, Savannah. Thank you. I do have a quick announcement for all exhibitors and all parents. When your cattle enter the holding ring, we are only going to allow one adult to accompany the exhibitor. We ask that you do not bring any aerosols or clippers into the holding pen. One adult, no aerosols, and no clippers into the holding pen. Officials that the market steer preview has been moved from 3 o'clock to immediately following the AOC division drive. The preview of the market steers will take place immediately following the market drive. Junior Market Steer Show. Entering the ring now is going to be class number 1 of our British division. We'd like to welcome into the ring entry number 4365, Destiny Potter of Mabank, Texas. Entry number 6907, Handy Maggie of Pleasanton, California. Entry number 3776, Kennedy Powell, Stephenville, Texas. Entry number 6915, Taylor Simpson of Early, Texas. Entry number 4793, Styles Patton, Thorndale, Texas. Entry number 4619, Skylar Sturgeon of Hydro, Oklahoma. And entry number 4688, Kinsley Krebs of Gordon, Nebraska.
smooth and youthful looking, but still the power and the body, and that's hard to do in these fat steers. But this Hereford one, this one is darn good. In terms of boldness, the center body, being really square backed behind that blade all the way to that hip, but still good looking enough through that front 1/3. I think that is extremely hard to do, to keep them fresh-headed, tight-necked, and explode, and this one does that. And then you study him at the ground, he's good enough structure for me. I think he is just so complete from end to end. He is fresher and more youthful about his head and neck than the young lady's black steer that comes in second. The Angus appearing steer is one maybe a little bigger hipped, a little bolder there in the top part of that hip, but maybe not as true and genuine from the top of his hip down to the ground in terms of that width of base. But one in terms of his balance, his lines, how smooth he is really good. He excels the steers behind him, the way his shoulder lays into him, how bold and powerful he is in that forb and heart. He's just one that kind of mirrors that class winner in terms of just being a smooth built, powerful one. He don't have that stretchy neck, but that's okay with me because he's still good enough neck, jawline, and down into that. Those two are extremely good. I think they're close in my mind, and I think they are going to be fun to see come back at the end of the day. This year that comes in third, I think when he first came in, I said, oh wow, here we're gonna lead off and start with this one pretty quick. At the ground, he's so big-footed, he's so big-boned, and then you move your way up, maybe not as bold back as those two ahead of him, maybe wants to kind of duck those pins a little bit and get a little rounder in his hip placement, but in terms of a look and being fresh and youthful, I'd say if you don't end him here, you could probably end him somewhere else and he'd still be at the top of the class. I just think he is so complete, so good structured. He is bolder in his upper rib cage than the two that are behind him, and that's what gets these two behind him beat today. These two kind of are similar. They're cattle that are awfully neat looking. The steer that comes next a little bigger in his frame, and I don't want to beat up on size because when you're that big and in that size and you still are smooth made, compliments to you, young lady. This one from the side is very hard to beat. I'd say in terms of a profile view, good headed, good jawline, good in terms of his chest. His underline in terms of balance, forerib back to that rear flank is extremely well. He gets out and goes. It's when you get on top of him in terms of that back shape and that width of pins is what gets him beat. I need to see him boulder back, square hip to get him any higher today. And you probably heard me in that prospect show yesterday. I like big back cattle that start right behind their blade, and that's what gets him kind of down there in that line. And same goes for this steer. From the side, young man, you can flat get one shown. From the midrib back, this steer excels a lot of things. His hip and hind leg and the way it coordinates together, he's so deep-bodied and deep flank. His midrib forward, he gets himself beat. He kind of wants to open there at the top part of his blade, gets tucked there in his foreb and heart, maybe not as clean down in that chest floor as those ones above him, but darn, this is a tough class. It's a good steer. We could put him in and we'd probably be rediscussing him at the top. He, to me, just gets a little plainer headed, a little plainer up front, and that's why he sits in that spot today. Good steer next. I think you should be proud to own this steer, young lady. You've done a great job getting him to his endpoint. Good body, deep-sided. Just gets outperformed today in terms of muscle and power and with a skeleton. Another good one that we round the class out. I think one that you appreciate a lot of things. Really good, the way that neck comes out of his blade. Good in his jawline and his chest. He's smooth there behind his blade. And from his midrib back today, he gets beat. He just needs to be bolder in that upper hip, a little wider when you step behind him, but darn good steer that I think the young lady did a nice job getting that one fed. So congratulations, a way to start the Market Steer Show off with.
Congratulations to your champion, British Market Steer, belongs to entry number 4619, Skylar Sturgeon of Hydro, Oklahoma. Your reserve British champion market steer belongs to entry number 6915, Taylor Simpson of Early, Texas. Third, entry number 4365, Destiny Potter of Bank, Texas. Fourth, entry number 4688, Kinsley Krebs of Gordon, Nebraska. Fifth, entry number 4793, Styles Patton of Thorndale, Texas. Sixth, entry number 3776, Kennedy Powell, Stephenville, Texas. And rounding out the class will be entry number 6907, Haley Maggie of Pleasanton, California. Entering the ring now is going to be class number 2, which is the first class of our black division of market steers. We'd like to welcome to the ring entry number 4728, Braden Schroeder of Buckeye, Arizona. Entry number 6493, Emma Shaw of Casa Grande, Arizona. Entry number 1687, Annabelle Williams, Gilbert, Arizona. And entry number 7472, Sophia Schumacher of Yuma, Arizona. Class 3, you need to be ringside. Class 3, you need to be ringside. Class 4, you need to be making your way to the ring. Class 4, black market steers, you need to be making your way to the ring.
Good morning.
Nice way to start the black steer division. You know, these steers are not there yet in terms of maturity, but they bring a lot of good things to the table in terms of their look and their power and their design aspect. The steer we're going to start with in terms of just built and kind and structural integrity, he comes to the top, and the way that neck comes out of top of his blade, he's really smooth shouldered and good in his forb and heart, and his length aside, I appreciate. Is he as deep flanked as some other ones that are behind him? Probably not, and that's where we can change him, but he is a rib longer than those ones that are, so it kind of hurts him in that type of way. But his hip and hind leg and the way that coordinate is extremely well. I like the length of hip that he has, and still has that power and shape working on top of his skeleton. That's a nice steer here to start the class. If you want to start with a 1 2nd, I wouldn't disagree with you. If you say, Amanda, this one might be a touch stouter, he is. I think he is a boulder on top of his rib cage, and he's really square there behind his shoulder. He's one, to me though, if you start to study him a little longer, he gets really round off both ends of his skeleton, and that's a concern for me. A little rounder hipped, and he just doesn't want to coordinate off them rear two as comfortable as like He is the heavier muscled steer of the pair, I'd say, but in terms of balance and eye appeal, I'd like to change that hip structure on him ever so slightly. The steer that comes in third, I like him in terms of his handle. If we want to just place these on handle and being youthful, he's the one you probably will run to the top because he does handle a little better over that 12th and 13th rib. But when you get here and study him, he doesn't have the extra wow factor as those two above him. He gets a little tucked up in his flank, not as powerful in that upper hip as those two above him. And if you want to study his structure, it just doesn't get out there and reach through that shoulder and knee as I'd like. That's a good calf. I think he's going to be fun if you end up here in March and his shoulder stays in him because I think he's going to explode. You might be holding him a little bit and maybe that makes his body shape and that flank off a little bit, but a steer that I think has a lot of potential if we push him and drop that rear flank. Calf that rounds out the class, at the ground, big-footed, big bone, a steer that's got some muscle and power to him. He just gets overwhelmed in this particular class, a little plainer all the way through. But nice big-footed, big bone calf that the young man has, just need a little more to him today. Congratulations to those exhibitors, a nice way here to start this black steer division off with.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 7472, Sophia Schuma of Yuma, Arizona. Second place, entry number 6493, Emma Shaw of Casa Grande, Arizona. Third, entry number 1687, Annabelle Williams of Gilbert, Arizona. Fourth, entry number 4728, Braden Schroeder of Buckeye, Arizona. Three of our black market steers. We'd like to welcome to the ring entry number 8000, Rory Balma of Stevensville, Montana. Entry number 5929, Reese Elwood of Norwood, Colorado. Entry number 6218, Laney Holt of Burleson, Texas. Entry number 4822, Cooper Publica of Levelland, Texas. Entry number 3955, Jacob Schickendance, Perryton, Texas. Entry number 6936, Joseph Texiria, Terrebonne, Oregon. And entry number 4363, Destiny Potter of Mabank, Texas. Class 4 black market steers, you need to be checking in ringside. Class 4 black market steers, you need to be checking in ringside. Class 5, you need to be working your way to the ring. Class 5 black market steers, please be making your way to the ring.
steers here on the top end. These two really mirror each other in terms of their type and their kind. I don't think you can really pick a lot of things apart on them. And the steer that's going to win the class for me is just boulder backed. He's more stouter in his upper hip, and then when you study him at the ground, he's so big-footed, big bone, and he's still pretty sound, and that's what hits me hard. He is stout-backed, he's sound-structured, he's bold in his center body. Maybe is he a little jammed up front? He is, and he's good in terms of his throat latch and his chest and how fresh-headed he is. He's just a shorter neck, and if we want to pick on that, we can pick on that every day. And I told you earlier, I'm a sucker for a long-necked one, but with this much power, this much body, and still maintaining that structural correctness, that's a good calf. He is stout and powerful. I love him at the ground. I feel like it's very, very close between these two. I think you could go a lot of different ways because he mirrored what we just visited about. He is stout as well. He's big-bodied. He's deep-sided. To me, if you want to compare the two, he's not as bold there up on the top side of his skeleton as the one that wins the class, and that's what separates the two. To me, I think just muscle and width of shape and back shape is what separates those two steers because they're very, very similar. I think they're very good. It's going to be fun to get them back out here later this afternoon. The steer that comes in third has the extra look, the extra length aside, the extra length through that front end. To me, though, when you compare him to the two, maybe not as bold in that upper hip as those two ahead of him, and when you get behind him, maybe closes up at the base of his skeleton. I think what gets him particular beat out of this trio of steers is when we get him in motion, don't flex at that hawk and pasture as comfortable those two ahead of him. That's a good calf. That is a good-looking rascal that gives you a lot of smoothness and balance. I think he just got the short draw here and got a pretty tough class. I'd just like to change that rear two on him. Same for the goes with the calf in fourth. If you want one that's big-bellied and deep-sided and has that rear flank and has that rugged look to him, but still has that stretchy neck, tied to this one in fourth. I think mobility is what hurts him a little bit. Not as stout in that upper hip as those three ahead of him. I'd like to change him when we get him and go. Out of these two steers here, that's the handle and that's the finish that's going to sort them for me. The steer that comes in fifth just handles a little better of that 12th and 13th rib, has a bigger back shape in him. Maybe not as cool looking and maybe not as good as enough hipped as the one behind him. I do see that, but I just think there's more calf in that steer. The steer that comes next, awfully good looking. He's one that's big-footed, big bone, got that length of skeleton that I like. He's so smooth-shouldered. It's just when you get your hands on him, maybe not as stout and powerful, and definitely don't have that finish. He gets pretty open there in that rib cage. I just need more time on feed and allow that steer to mature just a notch more to get him any higher. Nice calf that rounds out the class. I like his look. I like his design aspect of things. Just drew a strong competitive class. He just gets a little rounder in his hip. I just need to see more steer there in his center body. But nice for the steers, competitive there on the top end.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 3955, Jacob Schickendance of Perryton, Texas. Second, Copper Publica of Loveland, Texas. Third, entry number 6936, Joseph Texiria of Terre Market steers, please be ringside. Class 6 market steers, please be ringside.
Competitive from top to bottom. I think you could do a lot of different things in this particular class and talk about almost these top 4 in terms of winning this class. To me though, and I hate to say this word, and this word always sticks in the back of my mind, is this one's the most complete. I think you always, when you come in to sort of show, or at least I do, I have this checkpoint sometimes in terms of what I particularly like, in terms of good looking, structure, but still explodes and still has that massive look, and this rascal does. I think when we talk about one that's real stretchy neck, this is what I like. I like that neck to come right out of the top of its blade, still really good in terms of his jawline down into his chest. And when you got one this long necked and his shoulder and he still lays him correctly, that's really, really hard to do. And that steer from his front 1/3 really excels. And then he doesn't disappoint you from his mid-rib back. He is a rib longer than some of these other steers behind him. So some people might say, well, he doesn't have the flank, but you gotta consider he is a little longer sided. He has that long, loose hip and hind leg about him. He's very, very sound and structurally correct at the ground. You get behind him, he explodes down his backside, big in his upper hip. If you want to say, well, that steer behind him might have just a touch more there in his forward and heart, I wouldn't argue. I'd say where the steer has the advantage in second, right behind his blade. But those 2 steers are very good. If you want to say, Amanda, the second steer is good in his mid-rib and maybe deeper sided, wouldn't argue one bit, and that's where he does have the advantage. When you pull that steer around and that steer wants to cooperate a little better than what he does, man, he gives you a neat look too. He is bold backed, he's good in his forward and heart. Maybe don't get out there and go just as comfortable, but I can't tell if he's just fighting that halter, doesn't like that halter, or what's going on, because every once in a while he wants to pop them rear too, but that's getting critical. I want you guys to think, man, she's beating up on structure. It's just some minute things that start to sort them too. When he wants to cooperate and work together, man, he gets you a good look. Sometimes he's not as stout when you get behind him at the ground. He just wants to close up just a little bit. If we want to talk about width at the top part of the skeleton, all the way to the ground, he wants to come in just ever so slightly there. But man, I'm starting to pick on him, and that's not right. I think that's a good steer. I think those duo up there are very, very close. When this 3rd place one came in, I said, oh, there he is. He is big-bodied, he's stout-featured, he's bold, he's still good and fresh and youthful in his head. To me, though, what gets him here in this particular class, the longer he stands out here, the longer his structure starts to get him. He gets pretty upright there in that shoulder. His knee wants to knock forward, and you can tell this front foot closer to me wants to start to toe out. I don't beat up on straight cattle, and I know it's very, very hard to get these steers this stout, this powerful, but when you get a trio of steers this close, in my mind, that's probably what's going to beat him today, is just a little bit of straightness there. But a really, really nice steer standing there, power, body, he has all the pieces. Just wish I could change his structure a little bit up front. I'm a sucker for a good brockle-headed one, and when he first came in, he was the first one that came into class, I said, ooh, I like a baldy. He's big-bodied, he's deep-sided, he just gets out-powered and gives up the extra look today when you start to compare him to ones above him. I think if we talked about this steer as class ahead, we'd be rediscussing that first class, because he has a lot of good pieces just in a tough class, maybe not as mobile at the ground as we'd like. The steer that comes next, mobility, structural integrity, look and design, has all the pieces. This is one from a profile view you gravitate to pretty fast because his lines are so good, his hip and hind leg coordinate so well together. It's when you get behind him, he closes up at the base of his skeleton, don't have that extra boldness and power and width down his backside as we'd like to see. But man, that's a good calf, guys, a good looking one, really neat, well built, well designed, just needs more power in this particular class. If you guys might get mad at me at the end of the day or might not disagree, but I think all of us should agree, this is what showing cattle is about. This young lady out here, I think we should give her a round of applause. You know, a lot of us walk away from a show upset and pissed and just not comfortable, but I think at the end of the day, I think we got to remember that it is about the juniors. Young lady, you brought a good steer. Big foot and big bone, but you probably got one of the toughest classes today. Compliments to you. I think you could stick with it. The parents behind the scene, I can't applaud you enough. This is the best event to grow your kids up in, and for her to come out here and show these big steers is more than I could say in terms of this. Is probably the best part of the whole thing for me. But nice calf, just got in a really, really tough class today. Congratulations to all those exhibitors. Look forward to seeing them come back.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 5931, Peyton Rogers, Savannah, Missouri. Second, entry number 2009, Taya Stromberger of Imperial, Nebraska. Third, entry number 5771, Echo Bartels of Loma, Colorado. Fourth, entry number 7193, Emma Chenol of Jennings, Oklahoma. Fifth, entry number 7935, Ashlyn Vargas of Pryor, Oklahoma. And in sixth place, entry number 6413, Kristen Hansen of Shakota, Oklahoma. Entering the ring now is going to be Class 5 of our Black Steer Market Division. We're going to welcome to the ring entry number 3622, Kenzie Neve of Albany, Texas. Entry number 6152, Peyton Brookshire of Woodland, California. Entry number 4298, Madeline Wall of Idalou, Texas. Entry number 5605, Brayston Huxwell of McCook, Nebraska. Entry number 1845, Georgia Benzer of Dalhousie, Texas. Entry number 5127, Calvin Autry of Willard, New Mexico. Entry number 5273, Taylor Glover of Elgin, Oklahoma. Entry number 7865, Denver McKay of Orlando, Oklahoma. Class 6, Black Market Steers, you need to be checking in at the ring. Class 6, Black Market Steers, you need to be checking in at the ring. Class 7, you need to be ringside. Class 7, please start making your way to the ring.
apologies for taking a little longer. I just probably was fighting my head a little too much, because you've heard me say a few times I'm a sucker for a good-looking one, but you still got to have them powerful. I'll be the first to admit probably this 4, this 5, you can juggle around. There's differences in each one of these. You probably say, well, this one's more similar to that one. Why is it placed here? I do see that. I'm not going to say I don't see that. To me, though, I think you got the best 2 steers up, and they both bring something different to the table. If I could put these 2 steers together, you better watch out. They probably wouldn't be at the Arizona National, it'd be at a different show. But these steers are intriguing to me, and where they intrigue you is at the ground. They intrigue me in terms of their structure, and that's why they sit in this duo. I'll be the first to admit, you can't get any more different in terms of type and kind. There's always that class when you judge a show. My father always calls me and says, what'd you think? I said, man, I don't know if I got this particular class right, but man, if we were showing cattle, this is probably the class you want to weigh in and just fight them right off the bat. The steer we're going to start, to me, gives you an awfully neat look. And when she swings him around and gets planted, I just love this one from the side and the way everything coordinates and assembled together. He's one that still gets out and steps okay. Could you see him take maybe a notch longer stride every once in a while? I wouldn't argue. I think he can. Could you maybe make him just a touch wider base when you step behind him? You can. But when you get on top of him and look at his back shape, you look at the way the shoulder lays into him, the way he's assembled there in his forward and heart, and still his underneath balance is so good. Chest, midrib, back to the flank. I just think the extra length aside, the extra look, the smoothness, the shoulder goes to this steer. I just think from his midrib forward, he's just a notch better than the one that comes in second. One in second from his midrib back, man, you can't make him any wider backed and bigger pinned and square as the one that comes in second. You're probably saying, Amanda, it's a market steer show. Yeah, it is. We can add muscle and power all day long, but to add muscle power and still maintain a look is very hard to do. This steer is good, guys, and some of you guys, you might say, well, this is my kind. I won't argue. He could be a lot of people's kind in terms of his back shape, his hip, how wide he is, how bold he is in his center body. It's his midrib forward that starts to concern me. He's really bold shouldered. He's really out there in terms of his blades, and he just doesn't have that tight chest floor as we'd like to see. And I'm picking on a good one, and I think it just nitpicking on each one of those. They're different kinds of cattle. They carry their muscle in different ways. To me, I like the extra look, the smoothness of shoulder in that one, and maybe that's the breeding cattle aspect that comes out in me. He's stout, he's powerful, just too bold shoulder, and to be honest with you, I guess I'd like to clean him up under there in terms of his sheath as well. But stout, powerful, structural integrity goes to his advantage over the 1 and 3rd. The 1 and 3rd does mirror him a little better than the class winner in terms of being more moderate and his back shape and his width through those pins. He's one that from his midrib, I like his muscle shape. I like how powerful he is. It's when he gets stopped and pulled together, maybe gets a little upright there in that shoulder. He wants to toe out just a little bit up front when you compare him to those 2 above him. Maybe not explosive there in his lower flank and stifle as those 2, but man, that's a good calf. I'd say he weighed right into the top of the class. He wanted to beat him right off the beginning. I just wish I could change him right there off his front end. This steer comes in, you're like, well, Amanda, he matches your class winner. He does match my class winner in terms of length of side. He matches my class winner in having that extra length through his front end and smoothness. To me, though, when you get in and study him, though, he gets a little flatter in the upper part of his rib cage. You get behind him, he kind of closes up at the base of his skeleton. He doesn't have that extra width of back and that squareness as those 3 do above him, and that's what gets him beat. But in look, design, on the outside looking in on a profile view, you tie to him pretty fast just because he's extra good looking. I just wish he had more power, and if he did, we'd be rediscussing this class. This Baldy that comes in, man, he's good. He's stout, he's good body, he's deep-sided. Just his running gear got him beat in this particular class. He gets pretty straight up there in that knee and that toe. Like to change that about him. Another really good feed one that comes next, young lady. You got a good calf, and compliments to you in terms of getting this one ready, because he is big body, deep-sided. I love the structure, integrity under this steer as he gets out and goes. He's probably one of the sounder steers in this whole class. Tamigo gets a little plainer in terms of his muscle shape and power. He just gives up the extra wow factor in that back shape. Good calf that comes next. Big footed, big bone, steadying up through that 1/3 and gets a little plainer in that chest. I'd like to change that about him. I'd like him to see just a touch bolder in that upper part of his rib cage. I think these cattle are deep-sided, which is good, but I like to see that upper rib cage have a little more pop to it. Let's see that rounds out the class. Dude, you got a challenging class. You could go home and say, I was in the toughest class here at the Arizona National. You got a nice calf. Scalp pulled together, gives you a good look. Just wish you had more to them today. But nice set of steers, very, very competitive there. Congratulations to all those exhibitors.
Congratulations to entry number 1845, Georgia Benzner of Dalhart, Texas. Second, entry number 4298, Madeline Wall of Idalou, Texas. Third, entry number 7865, Denver McKay of Orlando, Oklahoma. Fourth, entry number 5272, Taylor Glover of Elgin, Oklahoma. Fifth, entry number 3622, Kenzie DeVee, Albany, Texas. Sixth, entry number 6152, Peyton Brookshire, Woodland, California. Seventh, entry number 5605, Bryston Huxwell of McCook, Nebraska. And rounding out the class will be entry number 5127, Calvin Autry of Willard, New Mexico. Entering the ring now is going to be Class 6 of our Black Market Steer division. Entry number 1995, Cooper Modestet of Idalou, Texas. Entry number 4262, Mila Mustaine of Santo, Texas. Entry number 7579, Brandon Henry of Tahoka, Texas. Entry number 4849, Strand Mays of Fort Worth, Texas. Entry number 3995, Harper Dunn of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Class 7, you need to be checking in at the ring. Class 7, you need to be checking in at the ring. We need all first and second place class winners of our Black Market Steer division to be ringside. First and second place class winners, please be ringside. This is going to be the first call for the Red Market Steer division. First call for the Red Market Steer division.
steers, the black and white one that's going to start this class, has a little more look to him when you get off the side of him. I think he's a little smoother shouldered. I like the way his shoulder and knee lay into him, just a notch better than the one that comes in second. Maybe you could change the way he flexes off that Hawk and Pasture, but when you get him stocked and pulled together, he's one that gives you a neat look with that back shape and power. His upper rib cage is almost ideal. He's just a neat steer to look out off the side. Just balances up extremely well. Just a touch better in his shoulder and knee than the one that comes in second. The one in second, man, from his midrib back in terms of boldness and power and that upper hip you like. And I think he flexes better off his rear too than the class winner. I guess for me, when you get off the side of him and really start to study his shoulder and the way that lays into him, that's where I criticize him. I wish he was just a touch better up front, tuck that chest in him. He gets a little off there in his hip too. I think those two are close. I think you could go a lot of different ways. I think those two come to the top though pretty easy in this particular class. From third down to fifth, we can probably do a lot of discussion and reorganize that class if you want. To me, the structural integrity of the third place one, that's why he lays there. He's just better at the ground, his movement. He's one that gives you a nice look. He needs more power when you step behind him. He's pretty flat there in the upper part of his hip, but I just like his build, his type and kind, just a notch better than the two that are behind him. The two behind I switched here last minute. I switched because structure sorted that pair for me. I think this one has a longer, looser hip. He's a little assembled, just a notch better all the way through his skeleton. He's one that's a touch bolder there in his upper part of his rib cage. Young lady, I asked for her autograph. I think we're going to see her in D1. She said she's volleyball, basketball. She's shooting to be a D1 athlete, and I'm rooting for you. You got a good calf, big back, heavy muscle. We get that one in motion, and you can see that one gets pretty straight. But nice set of steers, very competitive there on the top end.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 7579, Brendan Henry of Tahoka, Texas. Entry number 1995, Cooper Modisette of Idalou, Texas. Third, entry number 4849, Strand Mays of Fort Worth, Texas. Fourth, entry number 4262, Mila Mustaine, Santo, Texas. And rounding up the class will be entry number 3995, Harper Dunn of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Entering the ring now is going to be Class 7 of our Black Market Steer Division. We'd like to welcome in entry number 6182, Cora Marta of Winston, New Mexico. Entry number 7577, Braden Henry of Tahoka, Texas. Entry number 5604, Bryson Huxwell of McCook, Nebraska. And entry number 6411, Miranda Henson of Shakota, Oklahoma. All first and second place class winners, you need to be ringside. First and second class winners, please be ringside.
to round out this Black Steer show. I'd say this division was very competitive so far, and look forward to seeing these other ones. When we get to this weight and this stage of the game, I know it's hard to keep them fresh and youthful headed, and you could probably sort this pair just saying, oh, this one's fresher, this one's more youthful, better fronted. But to me, in getting this mature of weight, we better have some power, better have some body and some depth, and that's why this steer wins this particular class. He's the bigger body option, he's the deeper flanked one. You get behind him, he's explosive down his top line. He's big and bold in his upper hip. Would I like to change his head, his neck, and his chest? Yes. I'd like to make him a touch more youthful and lay that shoulder in just a notch better. But at this weight and this maturity, he better have some power, and that's why he wins. This is the better looking pair, the steer of the option. I'd say from a profile looking in, I love this one from the side. I love the way his neck lays into him. He's smooth shouldered. He's one that's got the extra length aside to him. But I guess when we get to this 1,500 pound rate, you better have some body and depth of flank. And that's what gets him beat to me. You take that glue out of that flank and we wash him. His rib cage is not correct. He gets really shallow there in that rear too. I'd like to see him just a touch more powerful hip as you step behind him. But man, from the side looking in, that's a good looking one. Just needs more body for me today to get more competitive within that duo of steers. Nice calf that comes in third. Heavy muscles, powerful. I guess his running gear gets him beat today. Not as smooth in terms of that shoulder and knee as those two ahead of him. Gets a little rounder in his shoulder, rounder in his hip. But nice steer, powerful, bold, square. And you got to appreciate on that. When they get to this weight, they still have that good head and freshness to them, and that calf does that. The steer that rounds out the class, young lady, you got a nice calf. Yeah, and kind of practical kind of cattle that's good in their middle. They're deep-sided, they're sound structured. Just gets outpowered today in this particular class. But nice set of cattle. Congratulations in that last class of steers here in the Black Division.
Congratulations to your class winner of Class 6 of the Black Market Steers. Belongs to entry number 5604, Bryson Huxwell of McCook, Nebraska. Second, entry number 7577, Braden Henry of Tahoka, Texas. Third, entry number 6411, Miranda Hansen of Shakota, Oklahoma. And rounding out the class is going to be entry number 6182, Cora Marta of Winston, New Mexico. We will now be welcoming back into the ring all of our first place class winners for the division drive of our Black Market Steer division. From Class 2, entry number 7472, Sophia Schumacher of Yuma, Arizona. From Class 3, entry number 3955, Jacob Schickendance of Perryton, Texas. From Class 4, entry number 5931, Peyton Rogers of Savannah, Missouri. From Class 5, entry number 1845, Georgia Benzer of Dalhart, Texas. From Class 6, entry number 7579, Brandon Henry of Tahoka, Texas. And from Class 7, entry number 5604, Bryson Huxwell of McCook, Nebraska.
over here. And you could tell probably just my body language and how we visited about each one of these classes. The heat was in those two middle classes in terms of the depth of class, the quality of class. The two classes that'll probably be in the back of my mind. Did I sort that correctly? Am I comfortable with that? And when I get these class winners back out here, as well as the seconds, I think you could see my kind. And that was my biggest thing, is making sure I try to stay as consistent as I can. I like good-looking cattle, and I think it is really, really hard to raise cattle that are good-looking, smooth-shouldered, but still explode with the structural integrity that they need. And there's a couple out here that do that. There's some stout, powerful ones that are sitting in the second hole from their mid-rib back. They're excellent, their body, their muscle, yeah. But it's that mid-rib forward that is really something that I study on, and forerib and heart and shoulder placement and knee. And I think there's a couple out here that mirror each other in doing that. I think there's one maybe out here particularly that has maybe a notch more body shape. Maybe just a little smoother built in terms of the way that shoulder and forward and heart lay, and maybe just a notch more flank in him. And then I think there's one out here that maybe has a touch more back shape and width down that back. So to me, I think it's very, very close between a couple of them out here. Let's put our hands together. I'm not going to discuss each one of them. We'll discuss them at the end of the day, but let's congratulate these Blacks cross steers as exhibitors.
Congratulations, your Black Market Steer Division Champion belongs to entry number 5931, Peyton Rogers of Savannah, Missouri. We will be bringing in the second place class individual from class 4, Taya Stromberger of Imperial, Nebraska. Your reserve Black Division Market Steer comes out of class number 5. Entry number 1845, Georgia Besner of Delhart, Texas. 4, Styles Patton of Thorndale, Texas. Entry number 2778, Talon Garcia of Lufkin, Texas. Entry number 4743, Balin Branscom of Muleshoe, Texas. Entry number 4425, Brazos Harden of Gardendale, Texas. And entry number 6450, Rebecca Langford, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
There's like a whole list, like they would.
Entry number 4743, Blanken Branscom of Muleshoe, Texas. Entry number 4425, Brazos Harden of Glendale, Gardendale, Texas.
just a nice, complete steer to win this particular class. The steer that comes in second at the ground, is he the bigger footed, bigger boned option of the duo? He is, and he has just a touch more power in that upper hip. It's when you get on the side on, he runs downhill a little bit, just a little open there at the top part of his blade. He's probably not as genuine from the knee to the ground when he gets out and goes up front that I'd like to see. But man, that is a powerful steer. From his midrib back, he's bold, he's deep, he's square built. Just would like to change there up in the front 1/3 there in his hard and forward. But two really good steers. Very two different types of Kiana cattle. To me, I like the fresher and more youthful balance of that class winner there over the second. Big, rugged, stout one here in third. And nothing to take away from a calf that you appreciate how much body and depth that this steer has. Still sound and mobile when you get out. When you compare him to the two ahead of him, just gets a little plainer there in his head and down to his chest. I like to change that about him. He's sounder and more flexible in terms of his mobility than the steer that comes in fourth. The one in fourth is a little better headed, neck, and chested, but when you get that calf in motion, he's a little more restricted off both ends of his skeleton. You can see in terms of his hip, he's kind of rounder hip, and it doesn't allow him to flex as comfortable as we'd like. But four really, really good steers. You can do a lot of different things in that particular division and drive. But congratulations to those exhibitors.
Congratulations to your division champion of the Red Market Steer Division. Belongs to entry number 2778, Talon Garcia of Lufkin, Texas. Your reserve belongs to entry number 4794, Styles Patton of Thornville, Texas. Third belongs to entry number 4425, Brazos Harding of Gardendale, Texas. And rounding out the division is going to be entry number 4743, Blanken Branscombe of Muleshoe, Texas. We'd like to welcome into the ring Class 9, beginning with entry number 4624, Hayes Bagley of Greenwich, Utah. Entry number 7785, Cameron Hill of Bryan, Texas. Entry number 7538, Tatum Stir of Gila Bend, Arizona. Entry number 4480, Kinley Stowe of Marana, Arizona. Entry number 8466, Raylan Sproul of Overton, Nevada. And entry number 5557, Taylor Rowland of Peralta, New Mexico.
as these steers get pulled into line. Nice way to start this smoke division off with. Steer that's going to win to me though is just a little more correct at the ground and his angles. He's really one that has some boldness to that center body. I like his rib cage and the way it ties up to that upper spine, the way he has that turn and depth of flank. He wins just ideally on body shape and depth for me, and still maintains a good look. That's a nice calf here to win the particular class. The one in second, and when he first walked in, I said, well, that's a stout, powerful one that's got that big upper hip in him. I guess for me, when you get him going, he gets a little straight off both ends of his skeleton, a little shorter, rounder about his shoulder and hip as well. And that kind of correlates why he just doesn't get out there and reach as comfortable as we'd like. Standing still, man, you tie to him pretty fast. Just wish he went just a touch more comfortable off that rear too. But two really nice steers. I think they're very, very close in my mind. And third, I switched to third and fourth here at the end. I think just structure lays to the one and third. Takes that big, long, loose stride. He's got that extra length of skeleton. He's got that big back shape in him. Maybe just needs more body and depth. I think this calf just needs to mature. If you look at his rib, you look at his muscle pattern, pretty immature still. I think he just needs more time on feed to really fill out. But his structural integrity, extra length of spine goes to his advantage. Captain Force standing there, he has the body depth. You have to appreciate that about him. Deep body, big bone, big footed. It's just when we get him in motion, really rigid off both ends. He just is not as comfortable in terms of his mobility, like him to flex just a notch better than what he does. Same goes to the young man that comes next in the fifth ball. A calf that I appreciate a lot of things about. I appreciate his look, his design, his bone. He's one that's big and got that good back shape in him. To me, gets a little plainer up through that front 1/3, and you can see as he goes, that shoulder's just a little upright, and that knee wants to knock forward. I like to see him go just a notch better through his front 1/3. Nice calf that rounds out this particular class. I think body and depth and just practicality goes to this kind of cattle's advantage. To me, though, gets just a little plainer in his overall look. But nice to the steers. Let's congratulate those exhibitors.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 4624, Hayes Bagley of Greenwich, Utah. Second place belongs to entry number 7538, Tatum Sturr of Gila Bend, Arizona. Third, entry number 7785, Cameron Hill of Bryan, Texas. Fourth, entry number 4480, Kenley Stowe of Marana, Arizona. Fifth, entry number 8466, Ryland Sproul of Overton, Nevada. And rounding out the class will be entry number 5557, Taylor Rowland of Peralta, New Mexico.
the smoke division, and some gives and takes in each one of these. I think you could justify or discuss each one of them to come to the top, but in my opinion, this dark smoke one is one when you get to really evaluate him, you appreciate a lot of things from him. Is he a tad too full? Maybe just a little bit out here. He is, but he's bold, he's powerful, he's wide backed, he's square, and I appreciate in terms of having that much back shape and that much width, he's still correct at the ground. I think his shoulder is good enough out here for me. Is he one of the best behind his blades? Maybe not, but I think each one of these you could kind of criticize that about him. Still gives you a good look. I'll be honest, when he first came in, that color kind of throws you off. And this dirt, if we were on shavings or something else, he would have that extra pop out here, but to me, the dirt doesn't really help his color out here. It makes him look just a little darker and harder, but I think a steer that's really powerful. He's got more muscle mass, more boldness than the steers that do behind him, and that's why he sits in that position. The steer that comes next, if he would just relax and give you a good look, there's a lot of good in that steer. He is probably the least amount of hair out here, so when you look at the turn to his rib cage, you look at his body depth, his muscle mass, he's got some good stuff to him. To me, he's one that balances up extremely well. I love him through the front 1/3. Gets a little tight there in his forward heart and don't flex as well off his rear too. Some of you might say, well, Amanda, in the black steer division, you were picking good-looking, long-necked ones all day, and I was. But I think those are long-necked ones that were bold and powerful. This guy from the outside looking in is awfully, awfully good-looking. You can see underneath when he stops and poses, he's pretty flat all the way through. He wants to close up at the base of his skeleton. He don't have that width through his sternum and that boldness in his forward and heart we like. From a profile, he really similars and mirrors our Black Cross division steers, but it's when we step into him, he gets pretty flat all the way through. The steer that comes next, man, I wish this steer weighed in the class before, because when he gets in this particular class, he kind of just gets out horsed. He's good, guys. I think his days are yet to be gone. I hope you got him entered in Denver or somewhere else or in the Texas Majors, because there's a lot of good thing in this steer. He's bold, he's powerful, he's stout. I think for me, though, to really, really have that extra advantage in this class, maybe a length longer. I'm one that likes him a length longer and a little elevated through their front end. He kind of wants to run downhill, and you can see that chest floor is kind of a little lower than I would personally like. But man, from his mid-rib back, he's powerful, he's bold, he's got that squareness, good hip and hind leg. Just wish I could elevate him up through that front 1/3. Nice, good calf that rounds out this class. Big-footed, big bone, deep-sided, just gets a little plainer all the way through. Competitive class of steers, maybe not one that just jumps out and grabs you, but I think that it's going to be very tough to see them cattle come back in this particular division.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 3950, Madeline Chicken Dance of Perryton, Texas. Second, entry number 5546, Jade Stone of Stanton, Texas. Third, entry number 5229, Kobe Kirby of Muleshoe, Texas. Fourth, entry number 6234, Ryder Day of Meadow, Texas. And rounding out the class is going to be entry number 4724, Ali Massengill of Gila, New Mexico. Welcome into the ring is class 11 of the Smoke Market Steer division. We have entry number 3331, Avery Cabot of House, New Mexico. Entry number 7789, Olivia Moore of Harrison, Arkansas. Entry number 2521, Mason Grady of Grandview, Texas. Entry number 6774, Logan Hudson of Thorndale, Texas. Entry number 2689, Jordan Hamel of Hagerman, New Mexico. And entry number 2598, Aubrey Blizzard of Big Spring, Texas.
comes to the top pretty easy, and then from second down, you really got to sort and make some decisions. For me, just a calf that has the look, the design, the boldness, the power. I talk a lot about how they're assembled and how they balance up and their forb and heart back to their rib cage. This one does this extremely well. It's still in a fresh and youthful package. That's a good calf. I look forward to seeing him come back. Steer that comes in second doesn't have the presentation or the fit jaw. He's got that weird hair to him. But if you study this calf, it's a good steer. He's one that's sound-footed. He's bold, back-shaped. He's bold in that upper rib cage. He's one that just doesn't have the big hair. I think he's ideal in at the ground, and he's more structurally correct than the ones behind him. He has more width and power than the red steer that comes in third. The red steer in third, wow, stop, pulled together. He's good looking. I think when you get into him and start to get through that hair, he's pretty flat rib, pretty base snare as you step behind him. I just got to see a little more boldness and power. I like his balance, his hip and hind leg structure better than the steer that comes in fourth. The steer in fourth stopped and looking at him, you like his shape and his muscle and his width, his bone and foot size. To me, he gets too round shoulder, too round hip. He gets really uncoordinated in terms of his mobility when we get him in motion. Stop. He gives you a nice look. Just would like to change him there in his hip and hind leg, drop that rear flank. Big Rascal that comes next. Big body, this much weight, and this much power. I appreciate this steer in terms of still having that fresh head in him. He's still structurally correct, but when you get in and study him, he's got a little flatter there in the upper hip. He just doesn't have the extra wow factor of some other steers in here. Neat steer that rounds out. I think the calf that has pieces, maybe the pieces just don't blend as well together. He gets a little bolder shoulder, a little tighter in his forward. I just like the way his front end, I just changed the way his front end's put together. But he's stout, he's powerful, just round off both ends of his skeleton. Nice set of steers here to round out this division with.
Congratulations to entry number 2521, Mason Grady of Grandview, Texas. Second, entry number 3331, Avery Cabot of House, New Mexico. Third, entry number 7789, Olivia Moore of Harrison, Arkansas. Fourth, 2689, Jordan Hamill of Hager, New Mexico. Fifth, entry number 2598, Aubrey Blizzard of Big Spring, Texas. And rounding out the class will be entry number 6774, Logan Hodgson of Thorndale, Texas. We will now be bringing in all of our first place individuals for the Smoke Division Market Drive. From Class 9, entry number 4624, Hayes Bagley of Greenwich, Utah. From Class 10, entry number 3950, Madeline Chickendance of Barrington, Texas. And from Class 11, entry number 2521, Mason Grady of Grandview, Texas.
I guess we get a top 5 in this particular division, and I hate to do that when there's only 6 head out here, but we're going to make it work. I think 3 really nice class winners. I think ones that represent what we've been trying to do out here in terms of being stout and bold and still maintaining a look. I think there's one just more genuine in terms of his overall appearance, his overall design. I think one hits me pretty hard in this particular division and kind of matches what we've been doing so far. So with that said, let's put our hands together for a great colored smoke division, and we'll get you a top 5 in here.
Congratulations to Mason Grady of Grandview, Texas. We will now bring in entry number 3331, Avery Cabot of House, New Mexico. And your reserve smoke division belongs to entry number 3950, Madeline Chickendance of Barrington, Texas. Class 12, AOC. Class 12, AOC. You need to be checking in ringside. Class 12, AOC. You need to be checking in ringside. Class 13, AOC. You need to be making your way to the ring. Class 13, AOC. You need to be making your way to the ring. Class 14, you need to be getting ready. Class 14, AOC Market Steers. You need to be getting ready. Mays of Fort Worth, Texas. Entry number 4478, Kinley Stowe of Marana, Arizona. Entry number 1779, Nathan Stewart of Yuma, Arizona. Entry number 6769, Atlin Hodgson of Thorndale, Texas. Class 13, all other color market steers, you need to be checking in. Class 13, all other color market steers, you need to be checking in.
The smoke pretty fast in this particular class because I just think he puts the most good and quality together. He's the best balance and the most structurally correct from end to end and still maintains the muscle and body and the freshness. That's just a good calf here to win this class. I think from here it gets a little challenging because they could change them all in terms of their running gear. For me, the black and white steer's just a notch better in terms of his midrib. I like the length of spine, his length through his hip. Is he as big and powerful down that top line as the two behind him? Maybe not, but I think in terms of his center body, his look and design, he kind of slides into that second hole. The steer that's in third, he is the big back one of this pair, and big back one on either side. I guess when you study him though, he gets a little rounder in terms of that shoulder, rounder hip, a little tighter in that rear flank. I would like to soften him up and let him go just a notch better. And the steer that rounds out the class in terms of center body, in terms of depth of flake, he brings the most good to the table. I guess when you start to study his build and his balance, he gets pretty off there. He gets a little straight off both ends of his skeleton, not as comfortable in terms of his mobility. I'd like to see him just a touch powerful in the upper hip. But nice steers here to start this AOC division off with.
Congratulations to entry number 4844, Aubrey Mays of Fort Worth, Texas. Second, entry number 4478, Kenley Stowe of Marana, Arizona. Entry number 1779, Nathan Stewart of Yuma, Arizona. And rounding out the class, third was Adeline Hodgson of Thorndale, Texas, and fourth was Nathan Stewart of Yuma, Arizona. Cooper Arnold of Medina, Texas. Entry number 4483, Bailey Stow of Marana, Arizona. Entry number 7787, Catherine Hill of Bryan, Texas. Entry number 7396, Siler Yeager of Fairfield, Montana. Entry number 7450, Morgan DeCosta of Los Banos, California. Entry number 6466, Jackson Hole of Albany, Texas. And Hadley Tubbs of Yale, Oklahoma.
power. I think they're very similar in terms of their kind, their length aside, their length through their front end. They just both carry their muscle shape and power just a touch different. Let's do that. We're going to start with, I think, when we talk about shape and dimension, starting right behind that blade, this calf has the advantage. He's got that good shape and good hip and power in him. You know what throws him off is this white streak in his hip. It just kind of throws his whole hip and hip structure. But when you study him and really get in and study him, he's got some turn and back shape and power in his center body. Still maintains a good look to him. A steer that maybe needs a touch more flank, but I can't tell if it's the strip in that white and black and how that lays on his body a little bit that throws him off. But man, that is a stout, powerful one here to lead this particular class off. When we bring this one around, and I do know I switched them, and I don't do that very often, but when I do, I'm pretty certain. And this calf standing there is the bigger body, is the deeper flanked one of the duo. When we get him in motion, though, he gets a little upright in his pasturing set and not as comfortable as he hits that ground. And then when you get on top of him and study his back and his hip width, he gives up a little more muscle and power compared to our class winner. That's why we're going to beat him today. The red steer got in a tough class. I think this red steer needs about 50 more days, and then we're going to probably rediscuss it. Because the boldness and power and the shape and turn and freshness goes to this red steer's advantage. It's when you get in and study him, he gets pretty shallow there in his forward and heart and back into his flank. I think he just needs to mature in his rib cage. He's got all the pieces. If you guys are along ringside, need a steer in 60 days, I'll try to get this one, because I think this one's just going to get better and better. I just need more body and depth in this particular class today. The steer comes next does have the body, does have the depth and the turn to his rib cage. We just need to change him up front. He wants to get just a pigeon-toed. He gets a little bolder in that shoulder, not as comfortable from hop to passer. But man, young lady, you did a tremendous job of getting that one to his endpoint. Got that good big rib cage and that depth of flank. And same goes to the steer that comes next. Young lady, bold and powerful. To me, though, the steer's reached his prime and kind of over it. Gets a little stale about his head and down into that chest. Like to freshen him up. The smoked steer that comes next, big-footed, big boned, and powerful, just gets really piecey there in terms of his shoulder, forward, and heart. Like to change his running gear. He gets a little straight as well. Nice calf that comes next. Muscle and power goes to that one's advantage. As you go, he gets a little rounder shoulder, rounder hip. You can see in the top line, he opens up at the top part of his shoulder. We just need to change that one's build. But nice set of steers from top to bottom. Congratulations to all those exhibitors.
Congratulations to your class winner, entry number 466, Jackson Hole of Albany, Texas. Second, entry number 7396, Siler Yeager of Fairfield, Montana. Third, entry number 9588, Hadley Tubbs of Yale, Oklahoma. Fourth, entry number 4493, Cooper Arnold of Medina, Texas. Fifth, entry number 4483, Bailey Stowe of Marana, Arizona. Sixth, entry number 7450, Morgan DaCosta of Los Banos, California. And rounding out the class is going to be entry number 7787, Catherine Hill of Bryan, Texas. We are now moving into class 14 of the all other colored market steer division. We'd like to welcome in entry number 2518, Mason Grady of Grandview, Texas. Entry number 7098, Paisley Vinensky of Elk City, Oklahoma. Entry number 4364, Destiny Potter of the Bank, Texas. Entry number 5751, Leo Inlow of Sapula, Oklahoma. Entry number 4517, Paige Arnold of Medina, Texas. And entry number 4955, Carson Castro of Redmond, Oregon.
last class today, the steer show, and one that hits me pretty hard. I talk about power, I talk about boldness, I still talk about having correct at the ground. This is almost ideal in terms of structural integrity. Maybe does he have a nickel more shoulder than I've been talking about in previous divisions? Maybe you could argue that, but the way the shoulder lays into him and how smooth and powerful he is from that you'll take that little bit of shoulder for that much power. But man, I love sound structured cattle. When you can get this much meat and body shape packed into a steer that moves that good, that is awfully hard to do. That's a pretty good one there to win that particular class. Nothing to take away from this steer. This one is smoother at the point of his shoulder. He might be a notch better there in his form and heart. Just not as sound moving as that steer ahead of him. Gets a little shorter strided. This is a good calf. If we talked about him in another class today, we probably would be talking to him at winning a class, because there's a lot of good in that steer. To me, he just got winning a class that's really tough. I told this young lady she's brought good steers after good steers. She just managed to get them in the toughest class. Good body, deep-sided, functional kind of cattle. Just drew a hard draw today with those two ahead of him. The red steer that comes next, I like him when he's stopped and planted. He's one that's got the body, he's got the look, just gets a little straight off both of his skeleton. The next calf, long neck, long-sided, he's got the good lines and the balance up high to him. To me, when you step in and study him, just gets a little flatter in that rib cage once you get a close up at the base of his skeleton. Big calf that comes next. There's nothing wrong with big cattle, I'll be the first to admit. Appreciate the bone and foot. To me, he's reached his endpoint. He's past his prime. I'd like just to make him just a touch fresher all the way through. But big, stout, powerful kind of cattle. I just need him a little more youthful in his overall look.
Place individuals for the selection of the All Other Color Market Steer Drive. Coming in from Class 12, we'd like to welcome back Aubrey Mays of Fort Worth, Texas. From Class 13, Jackson Hull of Albany, Texas. And from Class 14, Mason Grady of Grandview, Texas.
We pull these class winners back out. A nice set of steers, maybe not the depth in each class like we've had in earlier divisions, but the quality is darn sure here in the class winners as well as seconds. I was told I need to get 5 out of this 6 to come back later today, or I guess right after this. So with that said, let's put our hands together. I think there's a steer that wins this division pretty easy.
Congratulations to you all of the color champion markets here. Belongs to Mason Grady from Grandview, Texas. We'll be bringing in the second place individual, Paisley Zadinsky of Elk City, Oklahoma. Your reserve all of the color division champion market steer belongs to Paisley Zadinsky of Elk City, Oklahoma. This is going to be a second call for the best of Arizona market steers. Second call for the best of Arizona market steers. Just a quick reminder to all of our Grand and Reserve Champion Market Steer Division winners. The Grand Champion Selection Preview will be immediately following the Best of Arizona Drive. The Grand Champion Preview right after the Best of Arizona Market Steer Drive. So please be getting ready. Your Best of Arizona Grand Champion Market Steer belongs to Emma Shaw of Casa Grande, Arizona. And your Reserve Best of Arizona Market Steer belongs to Sophia Schumack of Yuma, Arizona. We are now going to be getting ready for our Grand Champion preview, of all of our division market steers. So please, all Grand and Reserve Champion market steers, you need to be ringside.
Who's gonna write down this top 5?
just say a few comments. I know this is just a preview this afternoon before tonight, but compliments to steer exhibitors. I think it was a great competitive steer show today. There's some good ones that I had to send back to the barn in terms of 3rd and 4th overall. It'd be fun to get them completely out here as a total of top 5. But congratulations to you guys. I know the work ethic and the time and the effort that goes into this, especially during this holiday season, and some of you are probably packing up and headed to Congress or Denver. I wish you the best of luck with these the steers if they're leaving going somewhere else, because I think the quality was darn sure there. With that said, I guess I'm gonna write down, if I'm told correct, get you a top 5 out here. I'm not gonna talk each one of these. I'm not gonna lean towards each direction and describing them. But I think with that, I think we need to put our hands together for a great steer show. And I'm gonna visit with the Arizona National and see how they want to do this. Congratulations to all of you again.